Now it's time to dive into our first panel discussion for the evening: Data Without Boundaries, Leveraging the Open Internet for Precision Targeting. In a fragmented digital landscape, the open internet holds the key to meaningful engagement. Let's hear from the experts who are decoding this opportunity through data, AI, and personalization, all while staying privacy forward. Please welcome our panelists, Tathagat Jena, Head of Online Sales and CMO, India and APAC HMD Global; Mimi S Deb, CEO, Madison Media Plus; Ranjan Mishra, Senior Director, Client Services, The Trade Desk; Karan Kumar, Chief Marketing Officer, Hero Realty. And this session will be moderated by Rahul Puri, founder and editor at Agency Reporter. Let this session be a masterclass into turning data into dynamic brand stories. I would request all the panelists to please join on stage.
Good evening, everyone. Hi to all my fellow panelists. The topic for our discussion today is data without boundaries and how do we leverage the open internet when we have to do a precise targeting. And my panelists are Tathagat Jena from HMD, Karan Kumar from Hero Realty, Mimi Deb from Madison, and Ranjan Mishra from the Trade Desk. And we'll take the questions in the same order. My first question is for you, Tathagat. Uh, Before that, I'll just give you a very briefly I'll tell you what are we going to talk about in this session. We're just going to talk about first-party data, some of first-party data. We'll also talk about open web data. And then, yeah, we'll also talk about AI-driven personalization at scale, these things. So my first question for Tathagat is, Tathagat, you have a dual role, both in marketing and sales, in the leadership. How are you integrating first-party data into full funnel strategies across diverse regions, especially in a mobile-first economy?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks, Rahul. Very brief context about this small company that I represent, which all of you may not be aware of. HMD is essentially a company which has got the license to market and distribute Nokia products, apart from its own brand HMD, smallish Finnish company, and into both feature phones and smartphones. Now, to your question, Rahul, when you talk about first-party data, during the time that I have been here, that essentially it's a while it's a very offline-centric organization with retailers, the most priceless data that we have gotten so far is earlier for the first 1.5 years through Nokia.com, and then the last 1.5 years to HMD.com. It is our own D2C. So that's really the data that we get, because we do get a lot of organic visitors, and every time there is a interaction, whether it is for a it's not only purchase, it is for a sign up, it is for any service inquiry, any warranty, any anything to do with even just a basic sign up as well. That really is our first building block of that data. And obviously we kind of further layer it with region and language preferences as well. So that really is the repository. And how we use it essentially is that because we do not really have very large budget, but I'll still touch upon full funnel, is that we quickly realize that even within walled gardens, our spends, if it is on a top funnel, YouTube will not really, it will be a drop in the ocean, however you might do that. So we actually took that first party data and created a lot of lookalike models. And that is something that we used essentially for our Google and Meta advertising. And that gave us a lot more better conversion than just by going by interest, affinity, or device targeting. So that is one part. Second is when it comes to our bottom funnel or conversion, that's when we found that lot of the abandoned cart or add to cart customers, especially which comes from tier 2, tier 3 cities, they definitely convert better when you do that in terms of whether it's a web push notification or whether it's a WhatsApp led activity, and when we have something to offer, that really works brilliantly for bottom funnel as well. So that, in short, is how we really nurture that first party data and try to create the full funnel through that.
Yeah, I know everyone is waiting for a discount coupon to complete their purchase. They leave the cart midway and then wait for
it happens, but
yeah.
everybody's susceptible to that.
Yeah. So, Karan, I'll come to you then. See, real estate is a very high involvement category where timing and relevance are very crucial. How are you leveraging intent signals from the open web to engage prospects meaningfully?
So open internet gives you what I'd like to call a lot of ambient intent. You get to understand what people are searching, what kind of subjects, what kind of headlines, what kind of topics are relevant. Now what that does is it allows you as a marketer or as a communication provider to use those pegs and create individual communication planks or individual communication pegs around those planks. When you see people researching on Dwarka Expressway as an emerging micro market, when you see people researching on what all expressways are coming up in northern India, when you see people researching on how to invest generational wealth, when you see people researching on what asset class is giving me better return in the last 5 years, in the last 20 years, all of this provides you with a lot of stimulus, a lot of signal in terms of what people are reading, what people are researching. As somebody in the real estate business, for me, this information is like a gold mine. If I can, therefore, contextually choreograph my communication, nice phrase, contextually choreograph my communication to deliver on each one of these so-called search meta tags, I'm able to serve communication and advertising which is relevant. I think open internet gives me that leverage, that advantage. How best can we leverage that? How best can we harness that? How efficient are our internal systems to build on that information and to turn around communication? Different story altogether. But that really is the pursuit. That really is the holy grail. That really is the direction in which we're definitely moving. And I think that throws in some clues for the others also to follow, perhaps.
Right. Thank you, Karan. Mimi, from an agency standpoint, how are you helping maintain a balance between walled gardens and open web? There's a lot of depth in the open web. How are you helping your clients build a balance between open web and walled gardens?
Hi. So I'll speak a little bit more on the context of BFSI, which is one of our largest advertiser. So I think what we see the things, let's say the 3 C's, the lens of 3 C's, context, control, and creativity. So in terms of what happens when we go to the open web, it opens up a lot of beautiful context with the use of first-party data. In terms of, and our approach is a very, very programmatic first approach when it comes to connected TV, native, audio, and which also further complements social and search. So that's how we are able to, look at a very unified number, because there are certain clients who are obsessing about the 3+ and the 5+, and we are able to control that when we look at it in a more unified manner. And when it comes to the first-party data, we are able to open it to the open web and use it beautifully for great creative optimization, great creative deployment. So that's how we are sort of approaching it. We are learning every day. I think that's the key word. There is learning on the go and learning every day, optimization on the go. But what we are also looking at is how is the open web driving incrementality. in terms of, because reach is very important, so how is it driving incrementality and how is it building relevance for us? So this is how we are managing it.
All right. Ranjan, everyone knows this in bits and pieces, right? But I want to understand from you, what key advantages does open internet, open web offers over closed ecosystems with terms, in specific relation to precision targeting?
Sure. I think great points put by the panel. I think, Tathagat, you mentioned about how you are managing this first-party data, which is super, super important. And as Dhruv mentioned in his presentation, seed, we call it as seed. Seed is essentially your converter data. How do you identify what attributes does this user, and contextually, as Karan, you mentioned that, like, what was that called? Generational wealth. I think that's, I was searching for one of those earlier. But having said that, content and context with how the user they have been converting. It's really important to understand how users going through the open internet, trying to find the relevant information, but they are not glued onto one platform or the other. As the journey progresses during the day, users are browsing the data. What data comes back and what signals do you connect with? So as you have more and more data, even first-party data, and how do you then layer it with more precise audiences? Because the whole idea is to move beyond what you have, incrementality that we talk about. You want to grow more, you want to bring more customers. Hence, how relevant is your first-party data? And then you layer in your more audiences, just where we talk about lookalike audiences, but how closely that they are relevant to what audiences that you're looking for. Open internet really looks into those kind of audiences, because in a closed or a walled garden, you don't really have any control to that. Yes, you can get some probabilistic data, but how probable these could be? That realistically, you are reaching out to those audiences, and that really helps you ascertain. But you don't stop there. Because in an open internet, you get that feedback, you bring it back to your own system where we are bringing all these, you are controlling all this data. So enrichment is a really, really important piece. How do you continue to engage with this data and these audiences going forward? Because every other day, the content is changing, the user behavior is changing, how you are keeping yourself up to date. So I think that's super, super important. Precision, as the world is evolving, the data passback is super important.
All right, thank you, Ranjan. I'll move back to Tathagat. Tech is really blurring the lines between hardware, software, and consumer touchpoints. How do you see AI reshaping hyper-personalized and privacy-first user experiences?
Thanks, Rahul. So I will break it down in the sense that we are essentially a hardware selling organization, and I look at it from a marketing as well as I also say that how last 6, 8, 9 months AI has kind of impacted the internal working of our organization. Outside marketing, the one space where AI has seen a relevance is simply because if you have 25, 30 SKUs and 700, 750 small distributors with whom you have a transactional cash and carry business, the best of sales operations and analytics don't really give you the true clue throughout the month that how is it really going and how optimization. Somewhere AI is bringing in predictive stock analysis and a kind of auto allocating stocks to certain depots, etc., which we see it live. When it comes to marketing, there are a couple of things. One in which we already see the effect of it is simply because we rely a lot on dynamic product ads, and earlier used to struggle with the traditional way in terms of the agencies that it's not only the language but also the tone and context of these ads, that how especially during the festive time, how is it really delivering differently from a let's say from a Madurai to a Ahmedabad to a Kodaikanal. So that is something which we are able to serve well with the help of AI. Essentially, it is making us more efficient. third and the final thing is that in this device ecosystem space where I operate is that, and you mentioned privacy, is that, and I'll probably say that out aloud, that there are only a couple of brands right now which are really working on on-device AI, and those are the two big brands, Apple and Samsung. The rest are still playing catch up in terms of processing that information and keeping it there rather than sharing everything globally, which is in line with the privacy restrictions that you are talking about. We are not there yet. We are still trying to train the AI models that how it can help us create a better storefront in terms of, again, the D2C example that I'm talking about. How is it that sometimes a visitor who was given certain behavioral clues, the next time the visitor comes, how can we change the experience from a home page to from a WhatsApp-led conversational AI? How can we do that? We are not there yet, but we are constantly trying to train our systems to do that.
Sure. Thanks, Tathagat. We have heard the brand's view on that. And since we are on the topic of AI, Mimi, I want to understand from you, how are you as an agency approaching these AI-driven personalization at scale? And are you putting any safeguards in place to ensure ethical targeting and transparency?
So personalization at scale is a personal favorite topic because of the BFSI category. So we are extensively studying or using it for insights about consumer intent and behavior. And we are using that to deploy creatives accordingly. And recently we were just, with some of our partners where we figured out, with the use of Flow and VO3, how we can develop creatives on the go at, and how it can enable us personalization at scale in very, very short time and at massive scale. We can't imagine the kind of creative development that is possible in very short time. What we are also exploring, especially for the BFSI category, is how can we use this inciting that we, from that AI will help us with from consumer intent and behavior. How do we use this for offline sales also? So that's another piece which we are trying to sort of figure out. In terms of safety and guardrails, we don't depend on opaque data. We work with first-party compliant, data that is safe, compliant data, and consent-based data. So that's pretty much what we are doing.
Yeah. Thanks, Mimi. Karan, what role does storytelling play in this data-driven led marketing? And how do you use data to ensure your narrative resonate across channels?
See, storytelling, and intuitively, storytelling is not the antithesis of data. Storytelling is what makes data emotionally intelligent. Storytelling is what makes data emotionally intelligent. I'm saying the data will tell you who to speak with and maybe sometimes even what to speak in terms of the pegs. Storytelling will do how to speak. So the entire content creation bit becomes a very important piece with storytelling. So for me, data without storytelling and storytelling without data are like the blind leading the blind. You know what I mean? As in, you have data, but you don't know what to communicate and how to communicate. More importantly, how to communicate, what triggers, what buttons to push. Then what is the point of having the data? What have you done with it? Similarly, you have all the, you want to be the creative hothead, which is how traditionally a lot of our agencies in the past have performed, creative agencies, not my friends here. So एक creative idea है, लेकिन वो creative idea किसको क्या बोलना है, क्या बेचना है, what is the trigger, what is the passion, वो नहीं पता है. But एक गाना लिख देते हैं. It is my generation, some of you who are younger may not have gone through. I have gone through this a lot of CDs and NCDs, and एक गाना लिख देते हैं. But to do what and to sell what and to communicate what. So therefore for me, storytelling is a very important part which makes data emotionally intelligent. This is the third time I'm saying that phrase. I don't know what. And I think what happens in our kind of thing is you also then therefore pick up, going back to my first point, you pick out what are the things people are researching and going after, right? Open internet or otherwise, but open internet for sure. So, intergenerational wealth, I used that earlier. You create stories around intergenerational wealth. Another thing that we've kind of come across very recently, not very recently, but over the last 3 to 4 months, 6 months, is intergenerational living. So there's a lot of conversation happening around multiple generations living together. So you no longer sell a product like home based on the 4 walls and the box of the apartment. You talk about how it's a space for the grandmother and the grandchild and everybody else who comes in the middle, right? COVID, if anything, taught us how to sell homes as places which had added sanctuaries, green sanctuaries for health, wellness, meditation, yoga, if you couldn't go out in the larger world, right? So I think you pick up these cues. Data tells you what's getting researched, what's getting searched, what's your search volume like, traffic like, and then basis that you start using that information to create content which is relevant.
Yeah, but Karan, on a lighter note, गाना तो लिखते ही हैं 15th August को. All right. So Ranjan, my last question to you. Yeah. So what innovations or tools are you seeing emerge that help brands activate their first-party data more effectively across programmatic channels, including CTV and mobile?
Absolutely. And it's a super important topic. I think another way to how do you activate it, just not how do you have it, how do you host it, what do you do about it. So how do you ingest it to activate it? We at Trade Desk, we have something, there are tools. There is one of the tools that we call it as Galileo, wherein it really is called Galileo. So you import the data in various other formats. You just ingest it. So these are either you using your, so there are API connections that are there. So there is no human touch that you have to do. It's automatic server-to-server integrations. Or you have manual if you don't have any other ways to, like if you don't want to spend or invest in that white elephant, so-called CDPs, but anyways, but you should. So how do you have that data, ingest into it, and then expand? That's where the seed comes into picture. So Galileo is one of the tools where you ingest the data, expand it. But one of the earlier points that I want to connect with the earlier question that was asked is, with this first-party data and then how you ingest it, you reach out to the user and the storytelling that you talk about. When a user is sitting doing co-viewing on a CTV, that messaging is super important versus personalized messaging. So CTV user is watching with their family. Cord gutters we have heard so many times now. But who is he or she is watching with in the family? Versus on a personalized mobile, that signal is super important. That comes from your first-party data. And this is really important to have this ingested in the right manner and then to expand and reach out to the audiences. I think, and that's gaining, and then these are the signals then expands and reach out to the users in a much more effective manner.
All right, thank you, Ranjan. And that marks the end of this panel. I hope you have had some really good takeaways from this one. Thank you so much, Tathagat. Thanks, Karan. Thanks, Mimi. And thanks, Ranjan.
Thank you.
That was indeed very insightful discussion, and I would request all the speakers to please remain on stage for the token of appreciation.